Welcome to Sports Buds Hockey Podcast, where two friends come together to discuss all things hockey and where everyone's opinion is appreciated. Please welcome your hosts, Merrick Zemp and Collin Simpson.
Hello and welcome to Sports Buds Hockey Podcast. This is Season 3, Episode 32. My name is Merrick Zemp. I'm here to host with my buddy, Collin Simpson. How you doing tonight, Simps?
Doing good, Mav. Watched an exciting game the other night, and good to talk about it tonight.
You know what? It's an exciting time. For back-to-back years, we've got a Canadian team in the finals, and it's the same team. So the Edmonton Oilers, we watched them last night. Edmonton Oilers demolished, crushed, ran over, whatever you want to call it. They beat the Dallas Stars 6-3. Pretty good game. Actually, some I wouldn't say tense moments, but definitely some times where they were starting to feel it a little bit. But they pretty much led right from pillar to post on this one, as they've continued to do. So big win for them, big series win, 4-1, and now they can wait it out and we'll start the finals next week against the Florida Panthers. What were your thoughts on the game, Sims?
Yeah, I felt it was like more of the same that we've seen most of the series. I don't think you saw anything out of the ordinary from what we've been watching. Again, Dallas, doing what they were mainly doing in every other game. They put together some good cycle play, get the odd chance, but they can't really score when they need to score. And Edmonton puts pressure on them, constantly going back the other direction. And, there was times where, unfortunately for Dallas, Ottinger obviously started out with not a great start to the game, 2 shots, 2 goals, and ends up getting hiked from the game, which is a really surprise to me. I get, as a coach, you're kind of going, well, I just got to do something to shake up my team because they look about the same effort game in and game out. They just don't look like a team that's trying to get to the Stanley Cup Final, or, they're not clawing for it. They just weren't working as hard as the other team. And so I guess was he felt his only thing. Like, yeah, I know they called the timeout early.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a bit crazy. I don't think Casey DeSmith is the guy I want to put in. If I have a 1A, 1B type situation, maybe I make that change to try to change up, or maybe I go Mike Keenan and do 2 minutes and 3 minutes and put him back in and just go, hey guys, we need to play for this guy. He's got us through this whole season to where we're at, why we had a record like we did. I think it was a bit of a risky game, and I don't think it paid off for them all. Well, obviously from the scoreboard, it didn't pay off. And it's not like DeSmith came in and played amazing either with an 850.
Yeah, no, he let in 3 more goals after that anyway. Yeah, and I wouldn't necessarily blame Ottinger on the first couple. You had Corey Perry right in front, wide open on the power play, and then you had Janmark, coming in with some speed on a breakaway on a bad line change. So, but he did point out, DeBoer, he kind of said, we're looking at a goalie, Ottinger, who's now lost 6 of 7 coming into this game, and now they've scored 2 on the first 2 shots. Like, why would I not make a change? Like you though, I half expected him to at very least come out for the second period.
Yeah,
I thought he'd be leading the way second period and going back with him. And it was just, nope, your night's done.
and like you said, when you're talking 6 like that, it's not like it was like one bad game. You're looking at he hasn't been himself this whole series, to be honest. Again, though, but on that, like you said, the Perry goal, I always feel like you look at that goal and go, listen, guys, I'd say did your staff not do their homework, but forget your staff. Every one of you players saw the exact same goal from Nuge to Perry the night before. How is he that open in front of the net on the power play?
Sometimes, well, it's because he's so old. You just assume that he can't play anymore.
Yeah, but that's what he
I'm
can
not going to
do.
lie to you,
Just stand
Sims.
there, he puts his walker on the ground, it holds him up, it hits off the walker and goes on the net. Like,
Yeah.
you still have to guard that.
What you're doing is you're describing my exact game. It's exactly how I play. And yet somehow I score just like Corey Perry does, and nobody thinks to check me. I don't know why. They just leave me alone because I'm the old guy. What's it matter? What am I going to do?
But I feel like that in a nutshell sums up so much of the Dallas series, in which they didn't change anything.
Yeah.
Their offensive play was the exact same cycles. Everything they did was exact. I felt like I watched the exact same Dallas team over and over and try to do the exact same thing and get the exact same results. And that includes clearly how you were defending on the power play. After seeing it, because I get it, they scored twice like that, but the Oilers have been doing that the entire playoffs, that play.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand how you have not
They scored in every
recognized
game.
and changed.
They scored a power play goal in every game.
Yeah, but it's always
against
not
Dallas.
just scoring a power play goal. It's the fact that they've been using that, fake the shot, put it on the ice. Bouchard did it a couple times the series before. Like, it's something you've seen. But it was almost like Dallas is like, no, we are going to play this way on the shorthanded. No matter what, we're not going to adjust. And I felt like that's a huge part of the thing. We talked about it a little bit last podcast, talking about coaches who adjust and coaches who don't adjust. And I feel like there was no adjustment from Dallas in any sort of way.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, even with the power play, the hard part for them, and I could only imagine what it would be like, is trying to defend both Draisaitl, like you said, who is so strong on the puck, and McDavid, who is so quick and so shifty that you don't get caught watching them, but you get caught that they're going to burn you, right? So all of a sudden there's two guys going towards a puck when you're killing a penalty. Like, you don't have one guy to go to the puck. Like, you need to give him space and just let him stay outside if you can get him to do it. But instead, you got one or even two guys going to the puck or going to the boards or whatever. And yeah, you end up with that. Two quick passes, and you've got a guy that, there wasn't anybody within about 6 feet of him. Right? Like, there was nobody near Perry in front.
That was the most open I've seen a person on a power play in years.
Like,
there was
all four guys were outside by the boards.
At least one D-man in front, maybe, if they get stretched. You leave one D-man in front. There was not a person in front. I'm not sure where everybody was going.
Well, one D went to the corner. I think Draisaitl was on the opposite corner. He ring it around to McDavid. And then so the other D's going to McDavid, and the first guy's still on Draisaitl on the other side. And yeah, there you got Perry in the middle with nobody around him. And then the other one was just a good heads-up play. I think it was Wallman in its own zone, or maybe Kulak in his own end. Ripped the puck.
I think it was Wallman.
I think it was Wallman, all the way up to Arvidsson, who just tapped it in the middle for Janmark coming with speed. And bad line change. They got nobody coming over in time.
To be saved, though. That one for me needs to be saved. I feel like the way Janmark came in, it looked like there was nowhere really for him to go. He couldn't come back across his body. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. But 5-hole or across, I just think you keep the paddle down and move the body across. That shouldn't go in. That would be a horrible save.
As an Oilers fan who watched a lot of games this year, I saw that exact play from Janmark. I'm no less than 50 times this year. He got one goal that went in off his ass, and he got an empty netter. That was how many goals he got this year. So out of those probably 50 breakaways like that, he scored on 0. Literally 0. So to see him, blaze in and just roast Ottinger, and in that game, you're right. That's probably one he wants to have back. So,
and this is what I don't understand. Like, first off, there's only one real way to defend the Oilers' power play, and that's to not give them one. That's the starting point, right? Stay out of the box. You get it, just like it was with Pittsburgh in the 90s. If you get on the power play or get shorthanded against that team, you're going to lose games. You're not going to win hockey games. But despite the fact that Bouchard has such a nice shot, I still think that's the play. I think that's when you do your best against the Oilers power play, is give them the point shots. Because that's the one thing that, like you said, if McDavid's got it coming off the half wall or Draisaitl's got to come out of the half wall and they start going to the net, it's like basketball. You know what I mean? You have to switch over. And when you switch over, you leave a guy behind you wide open. And I think that would happen over and over. The only way you could do it is collapse and give up point shots. Get your bodies in the way, because then what happens is you're not giving Draisaitl and McDavid the puck. You're forcing it to go back to the point. And guess who? Bouchard's a good player, but then whoever the guy beside him is, neither one of them are as good as McDavid or Draisaitl. So make them have the puck. And I don't know why Dallas spread out, allowing them to come off the half walls in a one-on-one situation, which they can't defend. And then that's what it's same thing. Even with Nuge. Nuge's goal, same thing. Comes in off the half, goes towards the net. Someone has to shift off of Perry over to him, dumps it behind him instead of shooting, tap in goal.
Yeah.
Well, if you're forcing them to throw it to the back to the point instead, you're going to get some that'll once in a while Bouchard's bomb will get through, but most are going to hit a leg and go wide and out to the outside. And the biggest key is McDavid and Draisaitl aren't touching the puck on the power play. They're not getting the chance to do that. So I don't understand why more teams don't force them into that scenario. And I think that's
keep them up
where
high.
they kind of got. I think that's where they kind of get burnt a little from a special teams perspective.
Yeah. No, and I think that you're right. You have to just keep them off the ice. When it comes down to it, they're clicking at a good rate, not an obscene amount that's not, sustainable and everything else. They're just clicking and doing well. But again, I hope that the Panthers don't learn from Dallas's mistake and they defend however they're going to defend. And I would guess that if they don't score in the first game, they'll score in any games after that, because they'll figure it out. They'll start to move. They'll start to adjust. If they are blocking the point, they'll move it to the wings. If they're going to the wings, they'll move it to the point. Like that kind of stuff will happen, and you'll see those changes and move forward. But yeah, it was a tough one. As far as the defense, I thought they limited their shots. They did a good job that way. First goal was a giveaway. Second one, I think, was a power play, and then the third one was another giveaway. That third one, I think Skinner would have liked to have had back for sure.
Yeah, and I think that Dallas just didn't look like they were skating at that point. I could start to see, if you look down the lineup, I know the Oilers are considered an older team, but the Stars looked like the older team in this series. I'll tell you right now, I could name off some guys right now, which I'm going to, let's do it two different ways. I'm going to name two guys, the only two guys from the whole Stars list that I actually thought were in any way noticeable in the entire series, which is sad that that's where it was, because they've got a lot of guys you would think you'd be able to say. I felt like that Leon Bichelle, or however you say his name, saw him a lot in this series.
Yeah.
I thought he had a good series.
Well, he's 8 feet tall, so you can't miss him.
Right. And then beyond that, the only other guy I would say is Thomas Harley. He had a really good series. Well, I look at that forward lineup and I look at guys like Jamie Benn. That was probably your last chance. Where are you? Invisible. This is your captain. He was absolutely, he wasn't hitting. He wasn't skating. You've got.
I thought you saw Robertson. The last
Robertson
couple games
started to pick up. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, the last couple games, like I think he scored in 3 straight.
Yeah, but
like it was one. He got the one in the last couple games and stuff like that. So, but even but for the most part,
invisible. So this is where I'm talking about this team that they need to move on from. Jamie Benn needs to be gone. Sagan needs to be gone. Like, they're not capable of playing the pace that is what good teams are now.
Yeah,
I'm after watching this team, I am shocked they got as far as they did. Shocked. Now, whether they just played better or they wore themselves out or their style and again,
come on, Sibs, your brain is getting there. Just tell that hamster to go a little bit further. There's another reason why they looked bad. Come on, there's another reason.
Honestly, I don't think the Oilers played as well as they did in other series.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Yet, sadly, they dominated these guys more than other teams.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly didn't think it didn't feel like the Oilers looked uncomfortable at all in this series. At all. And don't get me wrong. There's the fact that we were just talking about the power play, saying, it hasn't been clicking completely, but it's been good. Big thing about this power play in this series is it scored at the right times.
Yeah.
So anytime Dallas started to get a bit of pushback, so usually the first goal of the game, almost every game was a power play goal for the Oilers. That starts you off on the right foot because Dallas didn't look like a good team at coming back. I know they got the one game they came back in, but they didn't look at any way good at chasing a game. And then they just, even in the last game where Dallas gets it back to, I think it was at 3-2, and then just off a foot and in the net, and it's 4-2. And it's just
that was the 5-3 one. Yeah.
Sorry, 5-3. Put it to 2-goal lead again, right? Yeah. And it just seemed to kill all momentum again. If there was anything building from Dallas, but again, it never looked dangerous. Even when they looked good in the sense of, look at these guys move the puck, look at them move around, they would do one cycle too many. Instead of just getting it to the point and getting a shot on net, they would literally, I would watch them do that, like, how it's curl away, throw it to the corner, curl away. They would do it like 7 times.
Yeah.
And then on the 8th time, they would lose the puck, and you'd go, why 7? What were you trying to do there?
I think what you're missing in this, and what I saw, at least to a certain extent, is that was all they had. The old saying, right, about a goalie, if it goes off the post, it means he had everything covered, right? Kind of the same thing. I feel like there was a lot of maybe waiting for the right play to develop, You know what I mean? Like they're coming in and they're cycling and they're expecting that they're going to find that open guy, that there's going to be Rantanen in the slot. There's going to be the Granlund with the readies for a shot, like all these things. And they wouldn't develop, or they would, but they'd get a stick on it and knock it back to the corner and
But
they'd
how do you
start the
not
play
realize
again.
that the Oilers were dropping back in? They were
Well, I don't
collapsing
know.
all
No,
their
but I'm
bodies
just saying,
back,
maybe
and the
that's
points were wide
why.
open.
But that's why it looked that way. There wasn't anything to do. There wasn't anywhere to go. So
No, and
then you
I
just
get that.
kind of keep
Obviously,
repeating
if
it.
there was somewhere to go, they would have went to the net.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt about that they were defending it well. It's my point is you're at the NHL, the highest caliber of coaching players, and you don't adjust and go, they're not giving us this down low cycle to cut out of the corner or cut off the half boards. The only thing we got here is to do 2 cycles, get it to the point, get it on net.
Yeah.
And they weren't doing that. And they do it sometimes. I'm not saying it never happened, but I'm saying if you were to go back and watch those game tape and see how many times they overcycled that puck, it was bananas. Like I'd never seen any team do it so much.
I would take that one step further, and I would say not only did they not get a lot of chances off of that, I would say most of the time they played with it till they lost it.
Yeah.
And then once they lost it, there was times where the Oilers didn't clear it. Ring it around the boards, defenseman kept it in, that turned into an actual play then, right? And they got several goals off of those type of plays where in reality, they've already blown it. Well, they already blown it, right? Like they've already tried to cycle and maybe even they had it in there for a minute but didn't get anything out of it. But then they get a chance because the Oilers coughed
But
it
if
up.
you looked at most of the Oilers' goals that weren't power play goals, they were transition out of their own zone goals, and almost all of those were because you had 3 guys down low cycling a puck, and you didn't get anything after the 3rd cycle, and you had all 3 caught. And so when you cough up the puck at that point, you have 3 Oilers going the other direction, and at best 2 defensemen. And that happened over and over, and many goals came like that.
We saw so many times you'd get a Bouchard up there, you'd get a Wallman up there, you'd get Klingberg up there. Like all those guys were catching up to that play, and it wasn't even a 3-on-2. There'd be an extra high guy for a 4-on-2. There'd be
you look at like the Connor goal where it was like into the middle right back to him for a shot. Draisaitl had another one exactly like that because they had the numbers, right?
Yeah.
How could the goalie, he doesn't know which guy to take. They had all these numbers. There was one they were talking about, I forget what game it was, but they were saying they were so far ahead of the play. They literally were in slow mode when they were passing it around. Which makes it even harder for the goaltender.
That was the 3-on-1. That was the 3-on-1 when McDavid scored.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but they're going so slow. That's even harder for the goalie because it's not like one guy's going to fly by the net. You literally can just pass it around and smack it in, and the goalie's just toast. So I think that's also hurt them from that cycle. Is that turned into more turnovers the other direction, and that's not even like looking at the flip out to McDavid. In what world is Connor McDavid on the other side of your last defender? In what world? I don't care if there's a turnover or not. I don't care if you've got the puck in their zone and Connor's outside of the zone, then your last defender is 5 feet behind him between the net and Connor still.
At least.
You don't even go in the zone.
Yeah, at least 5 feet. Depending on who you are, you might need 10 feet to have any chance.
We do it in soccer all the time. If there's a fast forward, don't care what the rest of the play is. You are 5 feet ready to go against this guy heading towards your net. It doesn't matter where the play is. You just can't let them be there and take off, right?
Well, and Rupe Hintz, probably their fastest forward, wasn't even close.
No, and that hurt Dallas a little in the beginning. That injury early on, he's their top centerman. I watched the game he came back in. I watched him. I bet money they're gonna say his ankle's done for a while. He blew a tire probably 12 times that game, like as if he had no strength in the ankle because he just kept falling down by himself. And I was like, but he was the only guy. It wasn't like everybody's falling. You're like, oh, the ice is bad. He literally himself fell down so many times, and I mean by himself, not anybody near him. He's just trying to turn and go the other direction, and he hit the ice. You're like, that guy is on a bad wheel. He's come back probably a little early, but what are you going to do? You run out of time. You got to go for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a game where it never felt in doubt. Even if Dallas would get one back, you'd be like, okay, yeah, you got one. But I still feel like the next goal is coming from Edmonton. And I felt like that most of the series. I always felt like when Edmonton had the puck, they were about to score. Every time Dallas had the puck, I didn't think there was really a chance of scoring. Even if they did, sometimes they would score.
Yeah, obviously they did a few times.
But it just didn't feel like it. You didn't think when they came in that was about to happen.
14 minutes and change. That's how much time the Dallas Stars led in this entire series. And that was all in game 1, third period. They didn't lead again the rest of the way. And like you said, the power plays were, I feel like it was a power play goal most first ones. Not
Mhm.
every game, but at least the last. I don't know if the last one was a power play goal. I know that the second one was in the last win in game 4.
Well, let's
But
put it this way: there was almost always a power play goal before Dallas had scored.
yeah, that's
So let's
fair.
put it that way. Say so even if the first goal was like I think his one game, I think the one goal was like just a breakout from a turnover. They went and scored, and then the next goal they got was on a power play. So
Yeah,
it almost was always like you always knew you were behind the 8 ball
yeah,
early on, and you got the other teams, the Oilers power play, feeling good about it before you've even got a goal.
yeah.
And I don't know, just Dallas doesn't play a style. They didn't play a style, which was a desperate, we need a goal. And I get nobody wants to run a gun with the Oilers, but what you were doing wasn't working either.
Yeah,
Right? So
yeah,
it's not like you were keeping the run and gun and the Oilers, you guys were like 14-13 with the shots on goal that game, and you really held possession the whole time. You didn't give up much, even when the Oilers scored a goal. No, what you were doing wasn't working. At
not at
that
all.
point, I felt like you also took any talent level like a Robertson, like Rantanen, who, hey, this I think Rantanen's a good player, but I think this series showed more what Rantanen's really like. And I think people got a little too excited on his lucky games he got in the beginning of the year against Colorado. He had a couple games where he had two shorthanded goals in his not shorthanded, two empty net goals on a friggin' hat trick. He had a couple other goals where he just threw it in front and hit off a foot and went in. And everybody's like talking like everybody's so stupid for giving up Rantanen. He's a stud. He's the best. He's going to run the Stars to the Stanley Cup Final. He's already got the Conn Smythe wrapped up. Absolutely invisible.
Yeah.
Where
What?
were
Maybe
you?
2 assists?
Yeah, like where were you? And again, I don't even consider points to be what I care about when I talk about visible. I mean, I'm watching these hockey games and I'm looking on the ice and saying who's a good player and who's not. Who's a guy who's impressing me in these games? I don't. You could have 0 points, but I see you everywhere on the ice, good or bad. At least I know you're there, and that's why I brought up Bichelle and Harley. They're not going to be up there always in points and stuff like that. But I'll tell you what, every time there's a play, they were in it, part of it, making good plays. Like Harley was doing great job, some defensive plays. He was the only guy I seen. There's another guy, Heiskanen. What happened to him? Not long ago was considered maybe the best defenseman in the league. He wasn't the best defenseman on his team. Like,
No, and I mean, he just got back from injury, so hard to say if that's. I think it was halfway through the Winnipeg series he came back, so
correct,
maybe he
but
rushed it a
that's
little
my
bit as
point though.
well.
Is if you're not going to be the best, if your good players are not going to come out and play, like Leon and Connor came out and played the last game, like it felt like none of the stars from the Stars came to play at all in this series. There's not like one guy who was really killing it and the rest just weren't keeping up. There was nothing.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I believe it was because of that cycle play that there was nothing, because how does one guy utilize their talent if all you're doing is what fourth liners can do?
yeah,
Turn, flip it to the corner, pick it up, skate up half board a little, throw it back into the corner for the next guy coming around. Well, that's what your fourth line's supposed to do. Not your first line, not your second line. You can do it once in a while,
yeah,
but you better be doing something else other than that.
yeah,
So yeah, it was a clinic by the Oilers for the whole series. I think that's great for them, especially. I don't think it was a hard series on them.
no,
Obviously, the Hyman thing will be talked about for a long time. That was the one big knock coming out of the series, I guess, to the detriment of the team. I don't think like Leon and Connor had to put in hard minutes. I feel like everything else, getting Ekholm back, there's just so many positives going
yeah.
forward.
Well, and I think like Connor alluded to that as well. He kind of said, we've been a lot more even keel, like even winning games and doing that kind of stuff. It's emotionally draining on you when you have to keep doing it and keep coming back. And you look at their run to the cup last year. There was a bunch more overtime games. There was a bunch more losses. There was a lot of the whole Vancouver series was up and down, and Skinner
Well,
being out
this
and
one as
big
well.
issues. And this
They
one,
in
they
both
had a bit of
Vancouver.
drama at the beginning after 2 games. Since then, they're 12-2.
Yeah, both Vancouver and Dallas last year were comeback series.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
had come back in both of them. They were about to get eliminated almost in both of them.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's a lot to put on you, and then you got to go into the final and you get to 7, and that's a lot to take on to the next year. But I just feel like they got to coast through this
Yeah.
series. I felt like they kind of coasted through the Vegas series, to be honest, with nothing. I think the LA one added a little bit of extra to them going down 2-0 and trying to go, man, not LA again. But I think after that, I feel like it's been the coast. Now, what we got to hope for is hopefully it's not too big a coast, because we saw what happened when Carolina coasted, right? So,
Yeah.
and I don't think it will. The different players, no offense to
Yeah.
Svechnikov and Aho and those guys, but they're not the same level of compete. So I'm not that worried about the Oilers not getting up for games.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about them saying, like in the past, so they haven't gotten out of the gate good on seasons, but that's out of the initial gate, right? That's coming off a summer type of thing.
Yeah.
They're already battle tested in. They're feeling it right now. Everyone's feeling good.
Well, and I think they've dialed in a lot of their things. Like we said, their power plays getting decent. Their penalty kill gave up obviously a bunch in the first game. After that, I think they were pretty decent. I mean, they're still only like 70% for the playoffs total, because they got just railed by LA the first one, and then obviously game one in this series. So they had a lot of bad moments for their penalty kill. But in general, I think it's kind of going up to speed now. That's doing well. And then from here, you can just look at their 5-on-5 play, where they're just dominating. They're double the score of their opponents. They're getting all the chances. They're pushing the pace. They're doing everything. And I mean, you look at it and say what you will about the opponents and everything else. You're looking at three teams this year. The teams that they beat were 3rd overall, 5th overall, and 6th overall in the NHL this year. I mean, that's a pretty good lineup to get through, to get to the finals. I mean, and really though, even with that, I don't know that. I mean, it sounded like they were more or less the underdogs on a few series. You said you didn't really think anybody was holding them as underdogs, but it was kind of a, is this the year for LA? Oh, Vegas is a deeper team. They've got better goaltending. That's going to be the difference. Okay, Dallas is an even deeper team than Vegas was, and they've got way better goaltending. So there's, they're going to be in trouble here for sure. And they just keep rolling and just keep doing well. And even according to them, we're not done yet. And you know what? We're still finding our game. There's still things we want to get better at. We still want to keep improving and
but to go
better.
Show that is even now against Florida, who back to like the champions last year, been in the finals 2 years in a row, been rolling through this playoffs, and the Oilers are still odds-on favorites to win the cup by a bunch.
Yeah.
Right. To go to the show that's not really been anybody thinking they'll be underdogs.
It still varies. I've still seen a couple that actually have Florida, so I was surprised, but
not many, man. I've been looking across all the betting lines, and it's actually a big difference.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's many people who have called the Oilers the underdogs against any of those teams. As much as you could say they were 5th or whatever, none of those teams were favorites to win this cup this year compared to the Oilers coming back in.
Yeah, no.
So there's not one of them that was not a dog to the Oiler in the Oilers. Yes, everyone had the same concept of, could Skinner screw this up? Right? There's no doubt about it, and he's killed it in the last little while. But my point is, like, they were if they had a proven goaltender, they would have been so far ahead favorites. They would have been tons ahead, even ahead of Florida. Because at the end of the day, as good as Florida is, they don't have McDavid, they don't have Draisaitl.
Yeah.
And you cannot, like any sporting event, if some teams got the 2 best players in the league, you can't be ahead of them in any way. Unless you're like the whole rest of the team's so bad that you don't even make the playoffs. But the fact is, this is a good team with those 2 players. You can't bet against them no matter what. But it's going to make for an amazing series. Obviously, getting the same as last year. And one other note to make, I guess it's kind of all over the internet today, was the fact that Connor touched the trophy.
Oh yeah.
Obviously,
they didn't touch it last year,
exactly.
So who cares?
Usually, it's a no to do that, but Connor was not. He's still being superstitious in the sense that he didn't touch it last year and you didn't win. So what do you do this year? Obviously, do something different, right?
Yeah. Well, and the Panthers, on the other hand, they touched it their first year and lost to Vegas. So then last year they didn't touch it. They won, obviously. So again, this year they're not touching it either.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
Yeah, it makes sense. You go with whatever.
Obviously, it has no bearing, but
no, it never does. But maybe.
No, not a chance.
But
if that was the case, sports would just die.
Yeah. Well, you just end up in a conundrum, right?
Yeah.
Neither of them touched it. Yeah. So that's it. It's a tie. They both get the cup.
Don't even play the games.
Yeah, you can't. There's nothing we can do. They both have to win.
Wednesday's the kickoff. They each get a bit of rest time here.
Yep.
Which will help out both teams to make it for a better final.
We're going to do a preview, but I will make one note of that as well. It'll give Florida time to get into Edmonton because Edmonton has home ice this time.
Oh, yeah, that's big. That was big for last year. So
Yeah, so I mean that'll be something that is really going to
it might impact
hopefully,
a lot.
yeah, it may impact. It may be a big deal on this and stuff. So for us, great talk, great series. It's been great already since getting up to this point. So we'll come back here in the next couple days and we'll do a full on preview. Including our predictions. Maybe some. I mean, maybe it's too easy to start picking Conn Smythe stuff, but we'll pick all that as well. And just what do we think is going to happen? Who are some intangibles? Who's going to be the favorites for everything? Who's going to really stand out? Whatever, right? And we'll come up with a little bit. We'll compare where they are, goals against, goals for, all that stuff too, just to get a good idea. And then we'll just kind of make stuff up because it's a rematch. So who knows what's going to happen? But it's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll come back for that. Hey, Sims, what do you think?
Yep, sounds good. Yeah, we'll get a good recap and a good preview of that series. Really break it down as much as we can. Do want to leave tonight's call with probably gonna make a few unhappy people down in Texas, but Dallas Stars, goodbye.
Oh, it's so good to not hear it anymore. I got to tell you one more time, Sims. Going to that game and them getting shut out 3-0, so I didn't have to hear that chant while I was there, was amazing.
Yep.
One more time, though, I will say one more shout out to Section 301 if you're listening. You guys were awesome. I really enjoyed my game with you. So, and for everybody else, I do want to thank you for listening. Don't forget you can find us at www.sportsbuds.com. That's sportsbudz.com. So it's got links and all of our things to all our different podcast sources, which is Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, TuneIn, and now of course we are on YouTube as well. So and don't forget to follow, subscribe, do all that stuff. That way you're going to see when we get new episodes up, and make sure you don't miss any. We are doing lots of coverage for the playoffs, and especially obviously for the Oilers as they continue to march along. And check out our social media, Instagram, Facebook, all that. And same thing, subscribe, follow us, and that way you aren't going to miss nothing. So, Sips, I want to thank you for a good talk. And I know that that flame in the middle of your chest where your heart should be, I know that you're putting a little bit of oil on it every day, a little bit of oil on it, and it's slowly turning. This is just going to be an Oilers podcast by next season. You're turning over a new leaf, and I'm loving seeing it.
Yep, for sure. It's going to be a great series. Let's go Panthers.
All right. Thanks, Sips. We'll talk to you soon.